So you guys, here's a manuscript. This is called The Apocalypse of Peter. It's a early Christian text of the 2nd century. And this was not canonized because it has a lot of crazy stuff in it. Apocalyptic stuff. So the author is unknown, although it is reportedly written by the disciple Peter. It is considered pseudepigrapha. So the Apocalypse of Peter describes a divine vision experienced by Peter through Christ. Does that sound familiar, you guys? After inquiring for signs of the second coming of Jesus, which is the parousia, the work delves into a vision of the afterlife and details both heavenly bliss for the righteous and eternal punishment for the damned. In particular, the punishments are graphically described in physical sense and loosely correspond to an eye for an eye. Blasphemers are hung by their tongues. Liars who bear false witness have their lips cut off. Callous rich people are made to wear rags and be pierced by sharp fiery stones as would beggars, and so on. So here's another one. It's called The Apocalypse of Paul. And this is a 4th century non-canonical apocalypse. It's part of the New Testament Apocrypha. So this one is a text which is pseudepigraphal. It purports to present a detailed account of a vision of heaven and hell experienced by Paul the Apostle. While the work is not accepted among the church leaders, it was quite commonly read in the Middle Ages, and it helped shape the beliefs of many Christians concerning the nature of the afterlife. At the end of the text, Paul, or the Virgin Mary, depending on which manuscript you read, manages to persuade God to give everyone in hell a day off every Sunday. So the author of this one is unknown as well. It does say that Paul the Apostle wrote it, and after he wrote it, the book was then buried beneath the foundations of a house in Tarsus, which is Paul's hometown, for centuries, until an angel ordered the compiler to dig it up. So I want to show you what the word apocalypse is. Apocalypse means revelation, disclosure. It is a literary genre in which a supernatural being reveals cosmic mysteries or the future to a human intermediary. The means of mediation includes dreams, visions, and heavenly journeys. They typically feature symbolic imagery drawn from the Hebrew Bible. So you guys heard what I just said, right? Apocalypse means revelation. So the book of Revelation is actually the Apocalypse of John. So I'm not sure if you're aware or not, but we have a second Apocalypse of John, or a second Revelation of John. It is pseudepigraphal, Greek Christian text. It is sometimes among the New Testament Apocrypha. It is falsely attributed to John of Patmos. The date is uncertain and has been placed as early as the late 4th century and as late as the mid-9th. Then we have another one. It's called the Apocalypse of John Chrysostom, or it's called the Second Apocryphal Apocalypse of John. It is another Christian text composed in Greek between the 6th and 8th centuries A.D. Although the text is often called an apocalypse by analogy with the similarly structured First Apocryphal Apocalypse of John, the text is not a true apocalypse. In the manuscripts, it's called a word of teaching or a treatise. It is usually classified as part of the New Testament Apocrypha because it describes an apocryphal encounter between John of Patmos and Jesus. Then we have another one. It's called the Apocalypse of John the Little. It is an apocalyptic text supposedly given to John the Apostle by revelation. It is dated to the 8th century AD and pertains to the rise of Islam. The title includes the little, which is in reference to John being the younger brother of James the Great. The book, or the text, models itself from the book of Revelation and the book of Daniel, and provides some of the cruelest surviving Syriac representations of Islamic dominance. So we all know that the book of Revelation is an apocalypse of John, right? So this book is the only apocalyptic book in the New Testament canon. It is the central place in Christian eschatology. So the author names himself as simply John in the text, but his precise identity remains a point of academic debate. So the bulk of traditional sources date the book to the reign of the Roman Emperor Domitian, which would be 81 to 96 AD. Evidence tend to confirm this, but the internal evidence, according to the text, date it to be before that, just because the temple is described. The one who is reigning during the time has the symbol 666 for the name. We know that was Nero. The outer court is mentioned. Many other things internally show that it could be before that time. But that's not the reason I'm doing this video. The reason I'm doing this video is to show you there are many apocalyptic texts, okay, many. The book of Revelation is one of them. An apocalyptic text of a vision of a supernatural being talking to a human. So if we have many of these apocalyptic texts, what makes this one to be real and the others not? I mean, you saw the apocalypse of Peter, how devastating and gross it is with the punishments of the wicked. Do you truly believe those stories? So in the book of Revelation, it talks about a seven-headed dragon, a serpent, a beast, souls at an altar singing and worshiping. And you guys believe all these apocalyptic descriptions in this book. But in the Apocalypse of Peter, when he describes things like that, you don't believe it. So what makes you believe all the apocalyptic descriptions in the book of Revelation or the Apocalypse of John, but not in the others? Because it was canonized? Is that why? Because in the beginning, it originally was not going to be canonized. It wasn't till later they made the decision to canonize it. So the canonical history of it, Revelation was among the last books accepted into the Christian biblical canon. And to the present day, some churches that derive from the Church of the East reject it. Eastern Christians became skeptical of the book as doubts concerning its authorship and unusual style were reinforced by aversion to its acceptance by Montanist and other groups considered to be heretical. This distrust of the book of Revelation persisted in the East through the 15th century. So Dionysius, AD 248, the bishop of Alexandria and a disciple of Origen, wrote that the book of Revelation could have been written by Cerinthus. Although he himself did not adopt the view that Cerinthus was the writer, he regarded the Apocalypse as the work of an inspired man, but not of an apostle. Eusebius even said that the Apocalypse of John was accepted as a canonical book and rejected at the same time. So even if the early church fathers had a hard time accepting it, why is it so widely accepted today amongst our 21st century Christians that watch movies like Avatar and things like that. Just curious.